There you are, my beautiful people. Welcome back to another thrilling episode of the most disturbing episodes on the internet today. For context, don't believe everything you hear or see on this video is strictly for entertainment purposes only. Do your own research on everything and keep your head on the straight swivel. With that being said, two things we need to do before we get started. One, hit that like button. Two, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. With that being said, let's dive in.
All right, y'all check out this footage from an Indiana and Notre Dame game. You see that UFO flying in the back? I slowed it down for you so you can see. It looks like it's coming out of some type of portal or something. So just watch as it casually flies by. Somebody in the audience had to catch that. Look at that. All right, y'all check out this footage.
That was definitely a UFO going through a portal.
Hold up, y'all. Did y'all see what happened to Nicolas Cage? This man was in Greece filming a horror movie about Jesus, a biblical horror story. And while he was filming, they went into a cave and bees, a whole lot of bees, just swarmed this man and started stinging the shit out of him. Y'all better stop playing with God. People that was on the scene said that shit was out of nowhere, the way they swarmed him. And I know why. Y'all know why too. Who the makes a horror story about Jesus? They had this man in the cave looking like this. God be telling y'all, stop motherfucking playing. If that's not a sign from up above, I don't know what it is then. Do y'all notice that every single time that Hollywood try to do some little weird, wicked games and come up with these weird movies to try to mock God, Jesus, y'all notice some weird shit always happen to him, right? Not even some weird shit, some crazy shit. Some of y'all be thinking, it's just a movie. It's just entertainment. No, bruh, this is a spiritual war. I'm going to say this loud and clear. Y'all better stop playing with God, because every time y'all do, he shows y'all who's really running it, who's really in control. And when it comes to Hollywood, they're not in control. Hold up, y'all.
Didn't in Passion of the Christ, like the cross gets struck by lightning or something like that?
Bro, let me get a slice. I'm man hungry. I'm man hungry. Let me get a slice. Let me get a slice. I'm man hungry. No, I'm just playing, bro. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
He was going to give him a slice too. That's something I would do. But you can tell he was trying not to be bothered to himself.
We have got a brand new Mandela effect, and you are not going to like this one. I'm going to show you a few images so we can establish what's actually fact. We can all agree that this is Michael J. Fox right here. That he played Marty McFly in Back to the Future. Are you sure about that? I mean, I have the original VHS in my hand right here. And if you don't want me to ruin this for you, you need to scroll away now. Because this actually exists. And that is not Michael J. Fox. That is actually Eric Stoltz. Well, somebody could have just made that cover. Really? And this. And this. How about this? Here's the two scenes side by side. Eric Stoltz, Michael J. Fox. And how about this scene? Where Marty goes back in time and sees his dad. Michael J. Fox. Eric Stoltz. Like I said, I have the original VHS, and in my timeline, it's Michael J. Fox. When I saw this yesterday, we got two timelines merging. Somebody really good at making a tape that makes it look like it was from the 80s. I mean, look at the box right there. It's even got things on the edges. I have the one I feel is real. Explain this to me.
Well, add it to the large, long list of Mandela effects.
What exactly is a mirror? Stupid question, right? Or is it? The more you think about it, and what I'm about to say, you actually wonder more, what is a mirror? And is reality encoded with invisible mirrors? proportioned just right to make our own eyes and brain deceive ourselves. Later, I'm going to show you exactly how your own eyes and brain do this to you. They say that the world is a stage. Is this current construct like a mass optical illusion type of concept? And to what extent are we already in the Matrix? So Matrix, they live, Truman Show, all commonalities. And they all use lenses, mirrors, or actual glasses, sunglasses, lenses, in order to show the symbolism and see into the other realm, also tying into the Vietnam original night vision, the red night vision, and the diocesan goggles, using lenses sort of to see beyond the firmament or other dimensions or into the spirit realm. Oracle seer, second sight. Anyway, are mirrors actually portals? The CIA also had something called Project Looking Glass, which I'll again come back to, and the mirror being defined as a looking glass. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Or is it magic mirror on the wall? Which is a Mandela effect. Which one do you remember? Again, all of these bullet points are themes that are tying in, and you're going to come down the rabbit hole if you want and see where they go. It's all related to invisible tech and brain warfare. And mirrors everywhere. Quantum mirrors on top of mirrors. And Biff Tannen's alternate reality, Lucifer's funhouse. Let's look for the exit sign. Mirrors are mysterious, spiritual, and a big part of the illusion of the framework of this simulation, especially the hijacked version. And the further it gets from God's actual creation, that's what's manifesting here in this place. And like simulation theory, but with a meaning. With simulation theory, there's this feeling that it doesn't mean anything. But with creation, it's kind of the same thing, but it all has order, purpose, meaning, and goodness. It's kind of always what the Bible said. A creation that's encoded with testing and observation, a real original source world that's dimensionally above us. This is what the Bible has always told you. The mental swindle is to interpret it all like it has no meaning. Have you ever had the thought that the firmament is like a dimensional barrier that acts like a two-way mirror, as in they see us, but we don't see them? Watchers, real life Truman Show. Now playing on an Earth sim near you.
I always did think of the firmament as like a two-way mirror.
You say a lot that the Bible is historically accurate. Okay. So if you had to choose one chapter out of the Bible that illustrates that, what would it be?
Well, I could choose just about any chapter, but there's one that comes to mind that's impressive, and that's chapter 10 of Genesis. Now, if you look at that, it's a bunch of this person begat this person, this begat, that begat them. However, that record has many, many dozens of ancient peoples, the origins of different nations, and they are linked together. There is the great archaeologist, W.F. Albright, he's considered the greatest archaeologist ever to have lived, said there is nothing like what is called chapter 10 of Genesis, the Table of Nations. Nothing anywhere in history like it, because it shows ancient nations that descended from Noah through his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. We can even discuss them through their accuracy. Those three sons and the nations that flow from, which constitute all nations. But the relationship of all those people with each other is borne out by that record. So now we have a record that shows how the nations were interrelated as they developed after the time of the Great Flood.
Okay.
So that chapter is incredibly accurate, is incredibly detailed, thousands of details in that chapter. The average person, the average Christian reads it, it's just a bunch of begats, so he begat him. It's a lot more than that. With all the interest in genealogy, that would be a chapter to study, because genealogies are extremely important. They make for claims of property claims, inheritance, familial relationships, groups of nations, communities, how they're related, languages that are related. You superimpose, or rather you bring into the discussion in chapter 10, language development. the ancient languages. It gives you an incredible amount of detail that supports biblical truth. Then on top of that, we now have DNA studies. So the languages, the DNA studies, the interrelationships of peoples, the ancient world, that chapter is a guide. It's a remarkable document. Like W.F. Albright said, there's nothing like it. Nothing has been discovered in the ancient world that shows the accuracy of the history of nations from the time of Noah on.
You can't quit now. You've risked way too much. You've worked way too hard. I know, it's tough. You're probably thinking, well, I might as well just go back to what I was doing before I stepped out of my comfort zone to chase this dream because it was way more comfortable there than it is right here. Well, it's going to be uncomfortable when you're getting to where you need to go. Where you're getting to where God's called you to go, it's going to be very uncomfortable, but you just got to ride it out, and you got to keep having faith, and you got to keep trusting in Him, and you got to keep taking those steps to get to where you know you want to be and where God wants to have you. It ain't going to be easy. Nobody ever said that. That's the biggest lie about Christianity is like, once I give my life to Christ, everything's gravy. No, if anything, it gets harder. Don't quit now, son. I love you. So does Jesus. Keep on keeping on. Come on now. You can't quit now.
Men aren't forged in comfort. Masculinity is born in the furnace of affliction. It's in suffering that the boy dies and the man is reborn. The Puritans had a doctrine, the early settlers of America, that in order to be able to ascend, you first had to descend. In other words, you had to go on the hero's journey. You had to go into the darkness. Now, there was a risk that if you went into the darkness, you might not come out. You might get lost in the pain, in the trauma, in the suffering. You might get lost in victimhood. But the only way ultimately to ascend was to go through that process of descent. And ultimately, you could only ascend as high as you descended. That's the hero's journey. That's the furnace. But here's the truth. You cannot ascend until you first descend. You cannot taste resurrection until you first taste death. And Christ himself showed this, that suffering is the catalyst for rebirth. So when it gets dark, when it feels like hell itself is aligned against you, don't quit. Don't run. Don't stop. Put one foot in front of the other, because it is in the arena that the man is crowned, where scars are forged into strength, and where despair is transformed into destiny. Psalms 23:4, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Brother, the valley is not the end. It's the passage. And the furnace is not your grave. It is your rebirth.
Oh, Lord. 6G is coming in 2030. We just got done with 5G.
In 2030. That's the public launch. But testing began years ago in controlled zones across Virginia, Osaka, and EU smart grids. And here's what they won't tell you. 6G doesn't connect your phone. It connects you. In 2023, DARPA and ATIS ran a closed pilot across federal buildings in Northern Virginia. The tech? 6G presence nodes, powered by terahertz bands that don't just transfer data. They mirror you. Each user's gait, tone, even heart rhythm became part of the signal loop. The system adjusted light, sound, even push notifications based on real-time biometric drift. It's called adaptive ambient sync, and it's not theory. In the Arlington test zone, over 200 participants unknowingly entered what the internal logs labeled a behavioral sync cluster. Result? 68% changed walking pace within 90 seconds. 52% began mirroring posture. Average voice pitch dropped 12 hertz across the zone without prompt or audio cue. This isn't cellular, it's presence modulation, backed by Samsung's 6G white paper, verified in Hexa-X testbeds, and buried in Appendix 9 of the Defense Communications Futures Report, black-barred until last quarter. 6G is coming in 2030.
If you thought I didn't have an excellent specimen for you today, think again. All right, guys, I want you to feast your eyes on this excellent mine crystal. Fluorite mineral is all that we have for this. But looking at it, it definitely is showing us multiple colors. It looks like we got purple, orange, blue, 3 different blues. This is an extraordinary piece. If I had to name this, I would call it Petrified Dragon's Beak. Metal Man in the Sky? Oh, Lord. Let's take a closer look.
That's as far as it goes. On video, I'm thinking the video. Goes like, what the hell?
What is going on? Do you see that? Oh my God.
I don't know.
Video recorder. Call it. Oh, see it? Oh my God. What is it?
Why?
Oh my God.
Oh, God.
I don't know if the phone is doing this justice, but it's a blood moon right now, man. This joint is red, like really red. But yeah, man, it's live right now. I don't know if you guys can see it from your parts of the country or wherever you at. Go check it out. Joint is bright red right now. It's crazy. Can y'all see that? I don't know how it's registering on the camera. Like, if you see it, it's probably not as red on the camera as it really is in person. But yeah, man. It's wild. That's my Presa Canaria back there, barking at something or somebody. Yeah, man, blood moon tonight. Friday night. No, is it Friday night? Man, I'm all over the place. Yeah, it's like Friday night, pretty much. Yeah.
And Apollo is in the sky and Apollo is in the sky talking to her. She's giving out jabs. Here's a really good one. Dua Lipa standing on a hexagon in the sky with Polaris behind her. When I was in Greece, I'm walking down the street and I look over at this pharmacy and look at what's there. Like, this was just like a random pharmacy. And in Revelation, it says that she deceives all of the nations via Pharmakeia. This can't be coincidental. Like, why would she be like a hole in the wall, like as if it's the firmament? Gets even weirder when you look at them talking about the Holy Spirit in Proverbs 8. Does not wisdom call, does not understanding raise her voice? On the heights beside the way, at the crossroads, she takes her stand. Beside the gates in front of the town, at the entrance of the portals, she cries aloud. This is just standard blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. That's exactly what this is and what this is trying to trick people into. I also saw this in Athens. It said, "Are you ready for the big reveal?" And it's called the Red Radisson. So I went and found the website. This is in there. So you have the Victorian outfit with like a red helmet, I guess to be like a truth in plain sight, and whatever this is, and a whole bunch of pictures just like this. And if anybody was wondering, in Deuteronomy 28, when the Israelites are of pictures.
I believe that's the King's Guard. Really stand-up gentleman, if you ask me.
The subject for the morning has been an object of considerable controversy. And back in the old medieval periods, there were very elaborate works dealing with magic. Magic sometimes uncertain, often unsavory in those days. Dark circles at the crossroads, haunts, various forms of black magic. All these finally gathered together under the general term of the astral light. The word itself, of course, is a perfectly innocent word. It really means, essentially, the effects of the stars, the convergence of star energies upon the atmosphere of the Earth. We have a feeling of what they do when they affect us, by astrology and by weather and by numerous meteorological reports. we are informed, at least in part, of starry influences. But the effect of these influences upon the Earth's subtle atmospheres became the basis of an elaborate structure in magical thinking. First of all, we have to follow the general pattern of antiquity in the discussion of the planet itself. We think of the planet Earth as merely as a son of balls surrounded by some atmosphere and floating in a great sea of space. This is not the way the ancients looked at it. They considered the planet to be based upon the same general pattern as the human being himself. Man has a physical body and he has invisible principles operating through it. To the ancients, the earth had invisible principles. The earth was not merely a lump. The earth was an organized structure, a structure that was capable of supporting life and passing through innumerable vicissitudes and changes of itself. There was not only a visible earth, but an invisible one. There was not only a physical earth, but there was a superphysical one. And the invisible structures of the earth, like the aura of the human body, were energy fields. And these energy fields were involved in the evolution of everything that exists in nature. All the kingdoms of life are nourished by the energies from appropriate levels of the energy fields. A large part of magnetic healing is the result of energies being directed, either by human consciousness or by various medicinal substances which carry these energies. Therefore, the whole planet is a vast organism, a tremendous, vital, dynamic structure, of which we in our daily living see only the outside and the surface. Beneath the surface is not just simply vast strata of rocks and volcanic forces. The invisible part of the earth is a tremendous being, for as the ancients put it, the earth is alive. The earth is a living thing. It is not simply a body or an object. Everything that exists in some way or other is alive. There is no death in space, but constant transformation. So the earth itself was a being, and in the mythology of the ancients they had appropriate deities to symbolize not only the earth but all of the separate parts of the earth's structure. The earth has its own mind, its own emotions, its own vitality. It not only is able to support life, but it is able to direct life. It not only brings us all the different forms of energy and life which we know in daily living, but it is behind this a conscious, rational power. Now, most people today, of course, don't believe this. Science has taken the attitude that man had the mind and the rest of nature was in existence only for man to tamper with. But this is not the way antiquity viewed it. The ancients were convinced that there was a tremendous vital power behind the physical form. Researches on the magnetic field of the human being have justified the realization that man also is both visible and invisible. The invisible part of man is sidereal. It is an energy field, it has its own memory, it has its own records, it has its own morality and ethics. And when a human being with his mind transgresses the ethics of the magnetic field, he gets sick. Because everything in nature is constantly laboring towards an equilibrium which will keep things as nearly in order as possible. So we look at the earth now as a kind of world with many levels. The Egyptians did the same thing. In the old tombs there are still old diagrams showing the levels of the planet and of the solar system and of all the invisible beings that dwell therein. The Tibetans and Buddhists had the seven heavens, and so did the Christians in the Apocalypse. All of these mysteries are now counted as merely aberrations. Well, some of them probably are aberrations, but what is an aberration? What is it that causes the individual to create fantasy? What is it that causes him to emotionalize every fact of his living? There has to be an emotional energy or he cannot do it. There has to be a mental energy or he cannot think. There has to be a vital energy or the body could not be repaired in case of sickness, and the growth of the child would be impossible. So everywhere there is life behind the scenes. Now, as soon as man began to recognize the possibility of life behind the scenes, he wanted to get to look at it, to find out about it, to do something with it. He was not content simply to live in a mystery. So he went to work, but unfortunately, he was not well equipped for the job. The energies which he was seeking to understand were also in himself, but he had never done anything with them in himself. He had never attempted to organize his own life and bring it in harmony with the universal purpose. He was determined to take this universal purpose and force it into harmony with his own purposes. So there was a conflict here, and out of this conflict, magic was one of the byproducts. It was one of the experimental structures in which the individual was attempting to understand the energies around him, moving through him, and variously conditioning him. Among other things, he discovered that his mind could control not only visible and physical thoughts, but invisible thoughts. The mind of the individual could create thoughts. And where are thoughts? What are they? How are they born? Do they live? How do they die? Here is something that we pass over. We don't even try to explain these things. We say we had an idea one morning. Where did it come from? Was it any good? How do we know that it came from us? Did we borrow it from somebody else? And is this idea useful or useless? Is it constructive or perverse? Is it helping something or hurting something? These problems we have no way of estimating except through the old esoteric doctrines that have descended to us from minds such as Paracelsus and Pythagoras. The ancients definitely believed that the individual had a field of energy around him which could and did affect his life, that he also could poison this field with his own thinking, that he could destroy himself, and that phenomena such as drug addiction and alcoholism are aspects of the perversion of energies, that they are the sickening of the field of the imagination that surrounds the body. So we have a problem that goes back to the dawn of time as to what is imagination, how does it work, and is there a solid structure there, and how can we direct it, or how does it direct us? All this was part of ceremonial magic, became involved in the Kabbalah, and has more lately taken its place in metaphysical psychology. All of these elements, therefore, must be brought down to some level where we can use them, where we can find out what they're doing to us or what we are doing to them. At the present moment, the astral light is largely the product of what we have done to it. This field is a kind of field of the ghost world. It is the field of the invisible, but in the subject for the morning.
That's it, I guess. I apologize, y'all.
For those who don't know, Viktor Schauberger was to water what Nikola Tesla was to electricity. He was a recognized genius, known as the water wizard. But what was his wellspring and source of genius? This is what he had to say on the subject, and I quote, "Already, from earliest childhood, it was my deepest wish to understand nature, and through this come closer to the truth I could not find at school or church. I was repeatedly drawn to the forest, where I could watch the flow of water for hours on end without getting tired or irritable. At this time, I did not yet know the water is the bearer of life, or the source of what we call consciousness. Totally oblivious, I let the water flow past my searching eyes, and only years later did I become aware that this running water attracts our consciousness magnetically, takes a piece with it with a force that is so strong that one loses consciousness for a while, and involuntarily falls into a deep sleep. And so gradually, I began to play with these forces in water, and I gave up this so-called free consciousness, and left it to the water for a while. Little by little, this game turned into a very serious matter, because I saw that it was possible to release my own consciousness from my body and attach it to the water. When I took it back again, the consciousness borrowed from the water told me things that were often very strange. And so the searcher became a researcher who could send his consciousness on expeditions, so to speak. And this way, I found out about things the rest of mankind has missed, because they do not know that people are able to send their free consciousness everywhere, even where the seeing eye cannot look. This so-called sight practiced with blindfolded eyes finally gave me ties to the secrets of nature, which I slowly began to recognize and understand in their own fabric. And in due course, it became clear to me that we human beings are used to seeing everything backwards and wrong. The biggest surprise, however, was that we human beings let our most valuable part drain off as useless, and from all the great intellectuality that flows through us, we retain only the crap. Viktor Schauberger.
That's all we have for today's video. If you made it this far, the code word is Tuesday Vibes. Go ahead and drop Tuesday Vibes in the comments below. That lets me know you're a real one. You made it all the way through the video. Just want to say thank you guys. Appreciate you guys, your support, rocking with your boy, and just thank you. Not really been feeling the best these last couple of days, but I'm still doing my best to show up every day for you guys. Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for your support. It means the world to me. I love you guys. This was the most disturbing videos on the internet today. See you tomorrow.